Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Criminal Justice Insider. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy.
And I'm Jeff Grant.
And we are sponsored by the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven.
Now more than ever.
And Family Reentry.
Serving the justice community since 1984.
So thank you all for tuning in again. And I love all the kind responses that people have been giving us and how they feel about this show and feeling like we really are talking about issues that make sense to them about issues around criminal justice. So,
well, you're already a celebrity, Babz. So this just pushes you up into the stratosphere.
So happy anniversary to your 100th meeting of the White Collar Online Support Group, Jeff.
Yep, that was last week. And 100 meetings for any criminal justice organization is a lot. And we're very grateful to have celebrated that last week. So thank you, Babz.
I appreciate that. And then...
you see Family Reentry's big news there? I kind of wrote it into your notes.
Yes. What is it?
Family Reentry's Fred Hodges,
yes,
our Director of Community Affairs,
gets an award.
He's the winner of the Erdang Torres Community Impact Award. It'll be given out at the Bridgeport Reentry Awards on May 4th at Housatonic Community College.
Great.
And nobody more deserving than Fred, who actually won the NAACP President's Award not that long ago, handed to him by you, Scott Esdale. So we're happy about both of that.
That's my man.
Oh yeah.
So if you hear the voice in the background, that is Scott X Esdale, my dear friend from way back. Way back before spouses and children and jobs and
maybe before X.
Yeah.
No, right at
right before that.
Right before. I know you got like a few friends that go back before that, right?
They call me Scotty O.
And we have Mr.
Dai McKnight.
Yes, hello. How are you?
Good morning. How
you guys
doing?
Right in.
Welcome. Thank you for having me today.
That's good.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell us they're going to give us a little insight into why they do the work that they do and what led up to this. And then we're going to talk about the big conference tomorrow on criminal justice.
Yeah, it actually starts tonight. The kickoff's tonight.
Oh, it doesn't start tonight?
Yeah.
It starts tonight.
Yeah.
Wayfair Ministry.
Oh, yes.
Celebrating 20 years of service that the Christian Community Commission has done. Pastor Donald Morris and Apostle Eugene Brunson. They've been doing the prayer walks and going into the, where the real crime is at, and where, young people have been dying in the streets, and they will do prayer walks, and they will go right on the corners where the young people are, doing a lot of the wild stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for 20 years, so we want to celebrate what they've been doing and also, embrace the movement in reference to spreading this thing all across the state.
Okay.
Yeah, Scott, I think you're modulating a little bit. You got to talk right into the mic.
So
1 2 1 2.
That's good. We're there.
You remember how this goes?
I used to be a rapper.
Yes, he did.
You want me to spit a couple bars?
I think we all were rappers, right? Like we all was like.
Yeah, the Run DMC thing didn't work out too good.
So, Mr. Esdale,
yes, ma'am.
My dearest,
yes.
Tell us, how did you get here? You're doing a lot of things. I've known you for many, many years.
Yeah,
I've known you early on doing the work with
Elm City Nation.
Elm City Nation.
Yeah. So, well, just for those that don't know, my name is Scott X Esdale. I'm the state president of the Connecticut NAACP. I represent the 16 branches throughout the state, the 8 youth councils, and the 8 college chapters throughout the state. I'm also the national board member of the NAACP that represents from Delaware to Maine.
Wow.
Which is the Northeast Corridor. Now I'm recently been appointed the National Criminal Justice Chair for the NAACP. So
okay.
Heavy.
Came a long way.
Yep.
In reference to what we used to do way back in the day with Elm City Nation. Elm City Nation, what Babz brought up, is an anti-gang organization that I put together when I came back from Virginia, where I went to school in Virginia State. I came back, and it was in the late 80s, early 90s. That's when the crack era was really, really strong. And a lot of my friends were dying, and a lot of people were being killed at that particular time in New Haven. Mayor Daniels just came into office, and I had started a restaurant called Babz in Newhallville, where a lot of this stuff was going on. And I mobilized and organized a bunch of young people that were formerly gang members and got them active into the community. And we started with 8 guys, and we got it up to like 600.
Wow.
600 young people. We were recognized on the Montel Jordan. BET came down to recognize us. Everybody, all the major news outlets, BET, they all came to MTV at that particular time. Came down, and we had a lot of rappers involved. K Solo, Redman, and a lot of different things were going on at that particular time. And we started this thing called the Black Expo. It was all young people. That
Still, right? It's still
no,
around.
we don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
We used to do it back then. And we took over the Freddie Fixer Parade.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting part of it was that we had young people that were involved in illegal activity. We got them involved in positive activity, and we started changing the dynamics that were going on in the city. And once again, we got recognized all over the country. And that, you know, I was challenged during that particular time. There was a young guy named Roger Van, who
was our good friend. He was still our good friend.
Yeah, he was actually on WNAC back then.
Yes.
Station.
Yes.
He was like he went to Brown University. He was like a Barack Obama before Barack Obama came about. And he was kind of like raised right in the midst of everything that was going on. And he was striving to get active in politics. And the older, upper echelon, black, historical, I would say, type of black leaders were not letting him into the fold. So he wanted to run for the NAACP president. He came to me and he asked me to, you know, be his campaign chairperson. I told him, I don't want to get involved in no NAACP. I'm not.
How'd that work out?
We were having hoodies on.
Because you know what, that
Tim
in those
Blue
days it was so far removed because we were so young, and it just seemed like.
But my family is Constance Baker Motley.
Yeah.
And, I come from that family. I always knew about it, but I really wasn't active with it. I was more on the Malcolm X side. And
hence the name of your restaurant, Shabazz, right?
Shabazz Restaurant,
Yeah.
right? And so I was more on that side of the movement. But Roger kept on like, come on, man, I need you to get active. I need you to get involved. You're in the entertainment business. I need you to, you know, get all your entertainment rappers and all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna throw some big parties and we're gonna register people and we're gonna do all this crazy stuff. I said, man, you crazy, man. That stuff ain't gonna work. And Roger kept pushing me and kept pushing me. I said, all right, I'm gonna do it. And I did it, and we like registered like I don't know, about 500 people in the NAACP. And Roger ran, and he won like 500 to 100, and it was like a huge, you know, thing that Roger became the Greater New Haven NAACP president. And then I started running other campaigns, and I started getting a little bit more sophisticated in politics. Started sitting down with like guys like Walter Brooks, who was a big-time politician during that particular time, and Mayor Daniels, and they started training me a little bit more to be, you know, as a political scientist in reference to knowing how to run campaigns and raise money and all that kind of stuff. So then I started running people's campaigns, got pretty good at it, and Roger then became state president and then became the national director of membership for the NAACP. And I got kind of tired of running other people's campaigns. And I said, let me try to run myself. And I ran for the Greater New Haven, which is the largest branch in all of New England. And I became the New Haven branch president. And then I eventually became state conference president, then national board member, and so on and so on. But I've always kept my roots in the criminal justice side. And me and brother Fred Hodges, even when he went away, my mother's from Bridgeport, and my father's from New Haven. So I always had a strong relationship with Bridgeport. Yeah. And that's how I met Diane and them through Brother Fred. But Brother Fred's always been like a big brother, and we kept in touch when he went and did his time. And I've always kept a strong relationship with the brothers in the prisons, meaning from 20 Love, from Hartford. But that was the big gang that was out of Bridgeport. It was Elm City out of New Haven. I kept my relationships in the prison system. And I actually ran a prison program at Webster for a while for young people, and Manson Youth Institute when young people were coming out. And Jim Brown, I kept a relationship with Jim Brown. with the Mayor I Can program. And, you know, so then I started growing nationally.
Mhm.
I always stayed in the hip-hop movement. And actually now that I've gotten this new position on the national level with the NAACP, at our national convention that's coming up, we're having the National Hip Hop Criminal Justice Summit,
That's awesome.
which will be in San Antonio, July 16th and 17th.
Oh, we're going to that.
Definitely, definitely. So we're gonna have all the largest criminal justice advocates, along with the hip hop community,
And the largest hip hop guys.
Right. So if you notice, Jay-Z and those guys are now doing a lot of story. Like, I don't know if you know about the Cleve Browder story.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Jay-Z produced that.
He just got he just got the award for that.
Exactly. So
Beautiful book award.
NWA was always, you know, a protest against how police were treating
Yeah, of
people in
course.
the community.
Mhm.
Public Enemy, who
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with, Chuck D. He's going to be participating and getting involved. I have an excellent relationship, but also with Curtis Blow.
Mhm.
So I'm just mobilizing all my relationships,
Wow.
bringing it together, and just trying to get a strong voice out there for people that have been affected by the criminal justice system.
You know, Scott, before we forget, I want to do a shout out
To who?
to your sister Carla Esdell Bragg,
man, she's
who's
amazing.
who's our
Isn't she?
dear friend, and
She's
who
amazing.
who's the director of outreach and marketing at Cornell Scott Hill.
That's right.
And she works for our other dear friend Michael Taylor there.
Yeah.
And she's also on the member of the Family Reentry Board of Directors. So there's a little plug for our organization too.
And one
But
of her
she is
partners, I want to give a shout out to William Juneboy Outlaw.
Oh,
too.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was my
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And all the brothers and sisters that are out there
Yep.
working in the struggle.
Yep.
I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Sure.
And I guess I'm gonna get off the mic, and then we'll talk about Dai, because he's the main man.
Yeah. And
This guy is amazing.
yeah, it
And
was
he
all,
invites me into the prisons to speak to the young people that he works with, and I've been a big fan of his for many, many years.
yeah, all of us. Dai.
Likewise.
Dai's the man now.
Let me begin by saying, in the name of God, the beneficent and merciful, greet you all in the greeting words of peace. Peace be unto you. Thank you, Scott, for the amazing work that you do, kicking down doors, along with family reentry that Jeff is at the helm right now, to be able to do the things that people like me, Fred, and Kenny Jackson are able to do, and William Outlaw in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say a few things about myself, only for one reason, is that I have an opportunity to articulate my story on behalf of those who have similar stories that don't have the opportunity to articulate their story. So right now will be the voice for the voiceless. Presently, I operate in the capacity of my name is Dai Muhammad McKnight. Presently, I operate in the capacity of a program manager for a young fatherhood program, which goes into a correctional system and meets young men who have children prior to getting out. And we develop that relationship with them, link them up with services. And then on the post-release side, when they get out, when they're released, we continue to provide those support services and mentorship for fatherhood, reentry, and mentoring. But I also go into the prison as in the capacity of the volunteer Islamic chaplain. But prior to doing all this, I had some other contact with the criminal justice system, unfortunately in Connecticut, which wasn't something that was new for me. Actually, I am the child of an incarcerated parent, which the biggest issue is the collateral damage of incarceration, the children of incarcerated parents, what happens to them. So I was told the story by my grandmother that I was in prison in my mother's stomach when she was in prison, and then she was released, and then I was born, and then 6 days later, she went back to prison, and my grandparents ended up getting me. Thank God for them. And they raised me. But that's a story that's so familiar in my neighborhood with the people who grew up with me in Father Panic Village in Bridgeport. So as a young man, I grew up in a neighborhood that was disenfranchised, lack of opportunity, lack of resources, and not making that an excuse, but options seemed limited. And I got caught up in the spider web of what was going on, and I end up going to prison, where I served 25 years. I had a 25-year sentence, and I served 17 and a half years off of that sentence. While incarcerated, I was blessed to be able to make a transformation for me, my journey was through Islam. It helped me change my value system, my perception of life, my perception of myself, and my perception of others. And it also made me want to educate myself, which I was able to take advantage of some of the volunteer programs and educational programs in the prison. But the reason why I'm here today is because Connecticut, we often thought of as a second chance state.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done some amazing things in Connecticut.
Yeah, we have.
Just being an ex-offender and being able to go back in prison to help facilitate reentry of other people coming out is amazing. And thank God for people like Kenny Jackson, who went to family reentry and sat down, and thank God for family reentry. They were willing to listen to Kenny Jackson, who was an ex-offender. He said, listen, if you want to develop a successful reentry program, then you got to have successful ex-offenders involved with the process to facilitate reentry if you want this thing to work. And they bought into it, and they developed a plan and made a program similar to the model that they had in San Francisco, the Delancey Street program.
Yep.
And they came back and took components from that, and they built a program that's been pretty successful so far with helping others. And having successful ex-offenders involved in that process was very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So in Connecticut, we've made some strides, but however, there's some other things that need to be addressed in order for us to live up to being a second chance state. Because with those state budget cuts, we almost became a no chance state.
That's right.
And we can't let people use this slogan, second chance state, as a means of political progress. We don't want people's pain to be a platform for the progress of others, but people are still in pain and their needs are not being addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why, and Scott's going to talk about it more later, why we're having this criminal justice forum. So I think it's important to understand some of the things that are affecting people now when they get out. Right now, to be honest with you, this is a program where we can be frank, and we have to be frank. Right now, because they cut the state budget, because I deal with people on the front line every day. There's people that service providers that deal with people coming out of prison every day, and this is the raw reality. We have people getting out of prison right now. There's no funding unless you're federally funded or privately funded. There's no state funding to buy a gentleman or a young lady coming out of prison an ID, which is so essential to be able to navigate into society. But we're touted as the second chance state.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no money to even buy an identification card, to buy a birth certificate, unless it's federal money or privately funded. So this is kind of counterproductive to the term.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron.
Because that really says this is not second chance. Because
Absolutely.
if you don't have the basic things to sort of move about as other citizens successfully, then it really handicaps you to success.
Absolutely. And then there's other things. I know we don't have time to go into everything, but these are just some of the issues and reasons that are going to be addressed during this criminal justice forum on Saturday, which they kick off tonight with the beautiful work that they've been doing in New Haven. Another issue is cost of incarceration law.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that has to be changed. We know this was implemented under the Rowland administration when there was a get tough on crime mentality, but it slipped through the cracks. Nobody's paid it any attention. General Statutes 18-85A, where cost of incarceration says when a person gets out of prison, up to 20 years that they're released, they can still have a lien put on their property, or if they get a settlement from a litigation, if they receive inheritance from a will or insurance policy. And that's really, when you look at the complexion of people coming out of prison, the majority African-American and Latino and poor whites who are disenfranchised. So these are the kind of laws that continue to disenfranchise people and keep them in a state of poverty, which poverty, ignorance, and frustration are some of those elements that help lead to the development of criminal behavior and put people in prison from the beginning.
So every sentence becomes a life sentence, really.
Yes.
That's a great point. Excellent point.
Real good point.
So talk to us about this conference, because I really want to understand and hear what do you expect to come out of this conference, and how did it come
Well,
come about?
We have to go back probably about a year, right?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
maybe about 2 years, when the whole "Nothing About Us Without Us" movement was created. We originally had a meeting with the governor's office pertaining to striving to set up an event or a conference where the formerly incarcerated would sit down and have an extensive conversation with all of the major power brokers around reentry and criminal justice. And out of that conversation, it didn't materialize. And this different conference was set up with all these experts from around the world that came to Connecticut.
That's the Governor's Reimagining Justice Conference last June?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And pretty much the people that were formerly incarcerated were put to the side and not included at the table.
And okay, that's usually how that goes.
Right. And we were kind of stunned that we had the original idea and we had put it before these individuals and it didn't materialize. And we were really, disheartened. And we had several conversations and we said, well, the hell with them. We're still going to do what we got to do. And we started mobilizing and organizing around the event. And it was so disingenuous that they had actually scheduled the event the same weekend that we were going to schedule our event. So it got to the point where, back and forth. And make a long story short, we decided to march on their event. So we had formerly incarcerated people from all over the state actually march in front of the event to show that these are the people that have actually been harmed and they have not been invited to the table to speak at this particular huge event.
Mhm.
It could have been where we could have worked cohesively together, which was the original plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ain't at the table, you're on the menu.
Right, so we were like, nothing about us. I think that's a beautiful quote. You need to
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's what nothing about us without us. How are you going to have this conference in our community that's most affected by it, doesn't have a seat at the table, not part of the conversation? And so we had a huge march. Over 1,000 people came out to the march. Blocked up traffic.
And Scott, you had people from that governor's conference join you in the march, and
Absolutely.
also politicians and mayors and
Joe
things like that.
Ganim was right in the front.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
So major politicians all came out and they marched with us because they know that the voice of the people were not at the table.
Yeah.
So it's no accident that you've got all these gubernatorial hopefuls showing up this
So-
weekend.
The main thing was that it wasn't a moment, that it's a movement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And not just to have a march, but let's keep this thing going and
Yeah.
let's keep organizing. Let's keep getting the voice
Mhm.
out there for the people and of the people. And the following year, we went to Bridgeport, and there was a lot of conversation and a lot of dialogue that you can't give these people opportunities. They'll never be successful. It's all about recidivism. And we had 100 individuals come on stage that have been out of jail for 5 years or more that have been successful. Actually, Jeff was a part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, by the way, Scott, I want to tell you that of every award that I've gotten, like, there haven't been that many,
Right.
but of every award I've gotten, the most meaningful, the one that's hanging on my mantle at home over my fireplace, is the one I received from you.
And it's true because
Means
I've
a lot.
seen it.
Yeah. and
I have a lot of respect for
and I tell the story a lot that there were probably almost 100 guys standing up there,
Right.
all of whom were,
And women.
and women, and women,
Men and women.
but mostly men,
men.
mostly
That's
men.
right.
And I was the only white man in that group.
That's right.
And I was just talking to Maureen Price Borland about this the other day. My dear friend, head of Community Partners in Action, and I said that I felt more acceptance in that room as someone who'd been through a
Wow.
common experience,
Shared experience.
shared experience, than I do. I can't get I can't get invited to an American Bar Association as someone who's had some kind of redemption story after
That's
having
right.
no longer be an attorney. So you accepted me, and they won't.
That's right.
It's unbelievable.
It's powerful.
Yep, powerful.
It's real powerful.
So what are your hopes and wishes for this conference?
So that was the experience in Bridgeport. We had over 100 men and women come up, and we acknowledged them to showcase individuals that have been out of jail for over 5 years. And we had people all the way up to like 40 years.
And hundreds more in the audience. That was
That's
just
right.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people in the audience that came up
Mhm.
that we did not know that they were formerly incarcerated, which was powerful experience. And after that, we said, well, now we need to actually put this conference together that we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and not just have them in Hartford, but actually in the communities that are affected the most. So we're having this first one here in New Haven. Then we plan to go to Hartford. We even want to go out to Willimantic, where they have this huge heroin epidemic.
Ooh.
Because the issue is not just a black or a brown issue. It's people all over are being affected by the criminal justice
Human
system.
issue.
They're being affected by the war on drugs. And we all need to come together and connect the dots and move together. So this is a movement once again. So this particular weekend, we have individuals that we feel that we respect, people from our communities that'll be a part of these different panels, that will be a part of this discussion. And we're going to honor those that are in our communities doing the work. And it's not about people from outside of our communities giving people these stamps of approval. If we don't give them the stamps of approval, it really doesn't mean anything. So we want people that are coming back with measurable results, people that have been affected and dealing with the real discussions, the real conversations, and getting down to the real issues. And if you want to run for governor, if you want to be a person that's going to be making the decisions about what our communities are going through, we demand that you come to our communities and have a conversation with us, a real conversation with us.
Does this feel old school to you?
Yeah, I'm back on my grind.
Because it feels very old
Back
school
in
to
the
me.
trenches,
You
yeah.
know
Yeah.
that
This
we
is the old Black Panther thing.
yes, it's
When
come
they
full
started-
circle.
when they started the free breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was really about the people, and it wasn't about how much money you were making, or
That's right.
what type of title you had, or what type of status that you had. It was just about being humble and being a servant.
So
But Scott, I mean, I don't know that I don't know all your motivations, obviously, but you know that there's probably 700,000 people in the state, a fifth of the state probably, who either has a criminal record or
Been affected by the criminal justice system.
or affected by the criminal justice. They have a
Right.
son, a daughter, a mother, a father.
Somebody's been touched.
Yeah, I mean
Right.
that's the biggest voting block in the state.
Now you count.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're a very intelligent man. And if we bring this to the people, we have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're the organizer, my friend. I'm just
I'm just connecting
That's-
the dots.
I'm just a radio host.
I always thought that was a good idea if you could mobilize the most disenfranchised
Disenfranchised people.
folks.
That's
that
right.
would be powerful.
We
Now
could change the paradigm.
So now Cuomo in New York has sort of followed Connecticut with this whole, we're going to allow parolees their rights to vote again.
Yeah.
And that's pretty powerful because that's
Very
a huge state.
Very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So the paradigms are shifting. I'm glad to be a part of this.
Mhm.
I'm glad to have the opportunity to work with Brother Fred Hodges and Brother Daeed. These guys have been teaching me a lot, educating me a lot, connecting me with all the right people, making sure that whatever I'm speaking to the people, I'm speaking about issues that people are really that they're really concerned about. So I'm not, they're my advisors. It's not, that I got some lobbyists or anything like this. And those children that right now of their parents are incarcerated, they don't have a lobby. They don't have some big time law firm representing them. So we're the individuals that are going to represent them. For all those females, and the largest growing population in the prison system are African American females.
Mm-hmm.
Who's their lobbyist? We're going to be their lobbyists. For all those individuals that are formerly incarcerated or anybody that's been affected by the criminal justice system, we are the voice now. So you're going to see us in the communities. You're going to see us in the most downtrodden neighborhoods, where whatever communities are affected the most, we're coming to you.
So how does that bode with the NAAC's stance on criminal
It's a lot different,
justice?
huh? It's a lot different. Huh?
I don't know. You got to tell me. Is it different?
So the NAACP is a
because
very
if they're asking you to do it, they must want some other kind of result. I mean, they must want
asking
something.
me to do it. I'm taking
Oh,
people.
all right,
Nobody's
okay.
asking me anything.
All right.
There's a leader.
Yeah,
All right.
it's coming from my heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna, the way I look at it is this, and I've learned this actually from Brother Fred's wife passing away lately. So big shout out to Brother Fred
Yeah.
and all the stuff that he's
Yeah,
going.
blessings.
We talk
Big shout
about
out
stuff
to
that's
Brother
deep,
Fred.
Blessings to them. Yeah,
right?
blessings.
And this is like my brother, man. I really love this dude a lot because I know that he's really sincere in this whole movement. And Brother Dai and Brother Kenny Jackson and Brother William Outlaw. I mean, this is real stuff. So I'm not trying to play games with it. Number one. Number two is that one thing that I learned, and for those who don't know, Brother Fred's wife recently passed away.
Yeah.
And it caught us all off guard. And it really took him off guard. And one thing it told me is that time, you can't play with time. And that's all we really have. We don't have, I mean, the money and all that stuff, you know, whatever your status is, that's going to go when you pass away.
Yeah.
So the only thing you really have is time. So do the most you can with the time. So while I'm the National Criminal Justice Chair of the NAACP, I want to use my time as effectively as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to bring all of my relationships together, and I want people to make real change for the people that need it the most. And I think that if I do that, then I'm good with God. That's
Yes,
the
sir.
bottom line. That's my
Yes, sir.
motive.
You know, Scott, I got to tell you that the night of Rosalind's passing,
Right.
and a lot of us in the community, Dai called me actually, and a lot of us in the community came to the
We were all at
hospital.
the hospital. We were all
Came
in
to the
together,
hospital, right? And I didn't really know to go to the hospital. You know, it's not in everybody's culture
Right.
to show up that way. And when I got off the elevator and I walked in, and there had to be, I don't know, 75 or 100 people
Yeah.
there surrounding with love and God and faith and compassion. And it kind of ran right through me. Like,
It's an amazing feeling, right?
yeah, like, you know,
Absolutely.
it's like, because those of us in communities like Greenwich and all, I mean, it's easy to distance ourselves.
Right.
You know, but when you get right in there and you see that this is really about love and support and people pulling together in a way that not everybody appreciates, it moved me to act in other ways in my life, to redouble my commitment to this community.
And that's pretty much where I'm at, you know. So in reference to this movement, I want to be serious about it. I want to be sincere about it. I don't want to play games with people. And I want to put people in position to have skills to do the right thing for our people.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to bring candidates in front of us to talk about real, meaningful things that are going to bring meaningful results to the community.
So which candidates are going to be there?
So we have Joe Gannon will be there. We'll have Susan Bicewicz. We have Ned Lamont. And we have Guy Smith. Those are the Democrats. There's a new Republican that just confirmed. I forgot his name.
Steve Ipsitnik?
Yeah.
Steve
that's-
Ipsitnik.
But there's so many candidates right now. I mean, it's
Oh,
like
God.
25 candidates.
And
right
and
now.
I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled by any of them.
Nah. I mean,
Well, a few have dropped out already. I mean, Luke Bronin
look,
dropped out
was
recently.
he officially in?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not
I
thrilled
guess
by
everybody
any
has
of them.
exploratory
I don't know what
committee.
officially
I don't even know
means.
what that means neither, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So-
But the bottom line is that anyone that wants to be in a position of power, if you plan on being governor, if you're serious about it, come on, let's have a conversation. And I'm going to make sure that you talk to some real people from our community that have been through the experience. And you're not going to be able to play games. You're not going to be able to shuck and jive. We're going to hold your feet to the fire. And, you know, we're not trying to hurt or harm anybody. We want to just do some real stuff.
Yeah.
You see, the thing I'm excited about, because I'll be there at the conference, right?
Thanks, Jeff, for all your support, too, man. You've been very supportive.
Yeah, well,
And once again,
Absolutely.
man, I want to be your agent.
you are my agent.
Have you written a book?
What's that?
Yes.
Huh?
I got one in the can. We're
Let me be
waiting.
your agent.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll have to talk about that. Babz wants to be my agent.
Babz make a
So
good
yeah,
agent.
But the thing I
want
want
a cabinet.
the thing I want to talk to them about, these candidates, is that I'm sure they all know, or they're all going to say that their solution is an economic engine.
Right.
You know, that, I mean, we have the best piece of real estate in the country between New York and Boston.
That's right.
And nobody has really taken the time to think about how we optimize our location in this country.
Optimalize.
Optimalize. You like
I
that
gotta
word?
work on that word.
Yeah. But
I like that.
But But the thing is that if they don't bring in both sides of that equation, the most marginalized and the economic chiefs, and satisfy both ends of that at the same time with their plan, it's going to fall flat. It's got to create opportunities for everybody.
Jeff Grant for governor.
But you know what, Jeff? I was at
Jeff,
the
let's do this, man.
I was at the Community Foundation's
Jeff Grant
annual.
for governor.
All
Let's do this.
right on.
I was at the Community Foundation's for Greater New
People's
Haven annual meeting last night. And they had Amy Lou from the Brookings Institute.
Oh yeah,
there.
yeah.
And she talked about that very thing. And she talked about how if you're not talking about reentry as lost, as a way to see that you are losing out on economic development of folks, then you are not having the right conversations. So that was very key that she sort of tied reentry to the success of economic development in this region. I thought that was pretty powerful.
I mean, Scott, this is a crazy state. We subsidize every ticket on Metro North. So if you buy a ticket for $25 to go into Manhattan, the state pays another $4 to subsidize that ticket.
Why?
Because there's not enough. It doesn't pay for everything that Connecticut needs.
Gotcha.
If you're up on the shoreline, they pay $40 per ticket for every ticket that's sold. So we subsidize.
Rich folk.
We subsidize people to leave the state, but we don't charge them tolls to come into the state.
Doesn't make
It's
any
a
sense.
crazy state.
Wow.
I don't know, Jeff. You should be governor.
I'm trying to tell you. Let's put the cabinet
I'm like,
together.
I'm kind of
It'll
feeling
be
that.
all real people. It'll be for the people, right?
Listen,
And the real issues will get out there.
listen. I
Not
am
this one, next one.
I
We'll
am
get ready for
I
the
am
next
not this year's criminal justice candidate.
one. No, the next one.
There are others, but not me.
We'll let them have this one. We'll get them on the next one.
So,
We got a couple of years to plan.
so back to the
You gotta keep your
conference.
health.
Yeah, back to you.
Back to
How
the
about Dai?
conference.
Let's Dai to say something.
So, Dai, what are you seeing out there? Tell me about what you see and hope to see come out of this conference in relationship to what you do every single day.
Well, I hope that the leverage, because basically it's all about what is and what's not. So I hope that the people that walk away from this conference, as far as people who are candidates for governor or politicians or legislators or lawmakers, understand the leverage of the power of the vote, and that we're going to begin to educate people and enlighten people about that power and about how that power should be used wisely. So they need to understand the leverage of that, because if they understand the leverage of that, now we can hold people's feet to the fire and hold people accountable that, listen, you said this, you said that. There's X amount of people over here who've had contact with the criminal justice system, who have a vote, who have a voice that count, and now you need to be held accountable for what you promised. Too many times this has happened in disenfranchised communities, and well, my experience has been in the Black and Latino community, and I've witnessed it, I've watched it. Perfect case in point, when Mr. Ganim went to run for office in Bridgeport,
Yep.
The first place he went to launch the campaign was to the Black church. That was evident that the same things that went on 150 years ago, 200, 300 years ago are still going on today, that he knew, especially in a city like Bridgeport, which is predominantly Black and Latino, and is definitely predominantly Democrat, is that if you want to get something done, you know where the votes are at. But don't just know the power of the people when it's time to run a campaign, and then you get in office and you forget about the power of that people and you didn't address the needs of the people that voted for you. So I'm not saying that's the case in this situation, but that's the case in most situations, is that when it's time to vote, people come in, they know where the power is at, they use it, but they use it for their own personal progress. So, and this is what we want to stop. We want people to say, listen, fine, you have an agenda. Is that agenda going to meet the needs of the people? And are you going to stick to what you promised to people when you get in office? So I'm hoping that coming out of this conference, that they understand the power of the vote and is used as a leverage to meet the needs of the people. And I think often you use the word public servants, but I guess we forget about the part that says servant.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very important to understand that even if you're a police officer, that you work for the people. You're a servant. You're supposed to serve the needs of the people, not abuse, not oppress, not swindle, not con, not manipulate the people that you work for.
Yeah, suffering service.
Right,
Suffering
right.
service.
Exactly.
And for me, the first place I look is who is empathetic, who's experienced some suffering, and who's empathetic with that. And so who's going to relate to the things that we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
not just advocate for so-called perfect people, because there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot worse stuff that just never got caught.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I come from Greenwich.
Absolutely.
so the bottom line is that we want to help people that are not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to be the voice for people that are not perfect. And I guess there's another piece that I wanted to talk to you about, and these are some of the questions that we should be asking some of the power brokers in the state of Connecticut, and just wanted to get your opinion on this in reference to one of the things that we had a conversation about maybe about 2 nights ago in reference to what questions we should be asking the candidates. And I just wanted to share this, and maybe we could probably get some people that are listening, to send in emails or whatever. But one of the issues is that, we talk about the second chance state issue, and it's a great trending thing now since it's received a lot of support, and somehow the paradigms are changing. And we talked about some of it's symbolic, some of it has substance to it. But the bottom line is that if Connecticut is really a second chance state, do they hire formerly incarcerated people?
Very important.
So if you're going to tell everybody else to hire second chance and people that are formerly incarcerated, when is the state itself going to do that?
Yeah, and not just ban the box legislation. When are they going to
Exactly.
actually put their money where their mouth is?
Then we're probably going to have to sit down and, offline, Jeff. But the other issue is, how do we come with real meaningful incentives for businesses to hire formerly incarcerated people? Because, right now, as we had talked about earlier, if you have a felony, you're pretty much, there's very few that can get back in meaningfully. But pretty much it's like a life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I'm a felon. Jeff's a felon.
It's like a life sentence, right?
We
So
understand
how
totally.
How do you get people back into society meaningfully, and how do you get the businesses to really buy into this?
Right.
Not put a bunch of dog and pony shows together. Let's talk about some real meaningful.
Well,
You gotta get.
what's going to make a real business?
You got to give them money. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Real subsidies.
real business.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, not
sure.
just the train station
No,
stuff like that.
no.
Let's talk some real.
And
meaningful.
the tax subsidy legislation, the federal tax subsidy legislation that's available now. I mean,
Right.
people are in, there. It doesn't really work because the employers don't want to do the paperwork. It's not enough money. They don't want the scrutiny because they run the risk of getting audits, and and small businesses don't necessarily have the resources to hire the best accountants and everything else.
Right.
So they don't want to get involved in that mess.
great
If you
point.
if you have a 2-person painting company, the last thing you want is people pouring over your taxes because you've taken a tax subsidy for hiring an ex-offender.
Well, I will tell you this, that out of that conversation yesterday at the Community Foundation, their annual meeting, and Amy Lou had said that it's a shift in thinking, because everybody wanted to chase Amazon for the right to have their warehouse in their city, right?
Right.
Right.
She was like, so you was
huge
willing to
campaign,
spend, you was willing to spend that money
Right.
for that, which wouldn't be giving you a good return on your investment. It wouldn't have. She's like, you have to shift your thinking around that motto and say, we have to invest back into folks,
Right.
into black and brown.
So
She specifically said
the
black
GE
and brown
deal
people.
Didn't work. The Aetna deal didn't work.
Right.
The ESPN deal didn't work. Alexion definitely didn't. Right.
And what have we now? We nothing. So, but
we
if
have
you
all
got,
these deals the DCD has put together to try to recruit these companies to the state, none of it's working. So what's a better approach for the people to sustain the people and maintain the people with real meaningful jobs in our community?
yes.
And I'm just going to say, from a historical perspective, Scott, you're making a great point. it's definitely a connection between employment opportunities and increase in crime. You don't have to be a social scientist to know that. The facts are clear, and we know, like, especially a city like Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, Waterbury were all industrial cities. I remember witnessing this growing up in an impoverished community. If your family had a job, if non-skilled labor, if you didn't have a trade, you didn't go to college, you had a chance to get a slice of the American pie was through that factory. And I witnessed a lot of people move out of the housing project, not only get a job through the factory, get their son a job, their nephew, their daughter, and they would go buy a house in the north end of Bridgeport, buy a house in Stratford. If you lived in New Haven, you might have went to Hamden. Now all that ended when those factories left. It's not a coincidence that there was an increase in crime, and at the same time there was an increase in the amount of drugs that were coming into the country, and they went straight to the inner city. So all these things have a connection. That's the same time with the prison boom of the prison industrial complex in Connecticut. A lot of prisons were built during that time and after that time frame. So it's very important.
It's all based on economics.
On economics. So if you have to get the private sector involved, and I'll tell you an amazing fact, not just citing the negative facts, but the positive facts of this. Out of the people that get out of prison, out of that group that are serious about reentry, out of that group, not everybody, but out of that group that is serious about reentry, their transformation, 85% of those people move into management and supervisory capacity on their job.
Wow.
And that's an amazing fact that they don't talk about, because those people are thirsty, they're hungry for an opportunity, and they bring a lot of skills to the table that they acquired in the underworld element that they translate and transform those talents into the workplace, into the legal workplace.
So, Dai, I know when Fresh Start was open, when Fresh Start was still funded by the state, an unfortunate byproduct of the fiscal crisis, but you spent most of your time teaching men how to be responsible. I would say that's a good way to describe it, don't you?
Absolutely.
And so what's missing in the equation right now from that? In a climate where we have more people being released from prison than ever, but the social services and the criminal justice safety net isn't there to support them.
It's a big issue. We have people coming out and they have program, and this is not to knock any program, but this is just we got to be real with one another. If we want to address something, we have to be real. We can't tiptoe around the issues. We have people coming out of prison and they send them to these organizations that are referral organizations. So they go to the referral organization. It might be a city program. There's no state funding. Unless they got federal money or private funding, they can't do anything unless they just have money to pay somebody's salary to sit there, do a young man or young lady's assessment, and then refer them out. There's nowhere to refer them to. So there's a bunch of referral agencies, and there's nowhere to refer them to.
So that's what the point I'm making is that there's nonsense going on in our community.
Yeah.
Let's deal with it. Let's make some meaningful things happen to help people and stop playing games.
So
nobody really cares about people that are formerly incarcerated. So
where is this conference going to be? Because we're running out of time.
I'm sorry.
And I want to know where it is and how people can access it.
Tonight, we'll be at Wayfair Ministries. Let me get the address right. And that will be at 29 Marne Street.
It's in Hamden, right?
Right. 29 Marne Street. And if you need information, you can call 860-523-9962.
What time tonight, Scott?
And that's at 7 p.m. at Wayfaring Ministries. And Robert Keene will be the keynote speaker from Faith, Power, and Deliverance Center.
Okay.
Out of New Haven, Connecticut. And then, so that's tonight. And tomorrow, I'm sorry, you want to say something, Dave?
No. Go ahead and finish with the announcement, and then I want to just add a fact real quick.
Yeah,
cool.
And we're close to Reverend Keene. We love, so there's a shout out for Reverend Keene for sure.
Good,
absolutely.
Bro. And the Criminal Justice Summit tomorrow starts at 8 a.m. at Hill House High School, and we'll be there all the way to 4 o'clock. One thing we did not mention is that Attorney Crump will be coming to speak during the luncheon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was the attorney for Trayvon Martin, for Michael Brown
Mhm.
and Stephen Clark with this recent incident that just happened out in Sacramento. So he'll be also stopping through to address the attendees at the conference also. So we got a lot going on.
Is the conference free?
It's free,
Okay.
open to the public.
And gentlemen, why don't you each tell us how people can get in touch with you any day, your websites, things like that.
Absolutely. So if you wanted to reach me, once again, my office number, my office is actually in Hartford, 860-523-9962. If you want to hit me up on social media, you can hit me with Scott with 1 T, SCOT, X, Esdale, ESDAILE, and I'm on Facebook and also Instagram.
Yep.
I'm not up on Twitter. I'm trying to work on my Twitter game. Twitter game is real weak.
Yeah, I see your stuff all night rolling in, Scott.
my
Yeah,
Twitter
yeah.
game is
You're a
very,
social
very
media mad person.
I gotta work on my Twitter.
Yeah.
game.
And I could be reached at Family Reentry Office, headquarters 75 Washington Avenue, 203-362-2452, or you can reach me by email, dianemcknight@familyreentry.org. And I just wanted to say, as a final statement for me, is that we like to invite everyone to come out, no matter what your ethnic background, black, white, candy stripe, it don't matter. Just come on out. And because even if you're not connected to criminal justice issues, please come out and support, because you might think that you're a distance away from this issue, but you might be closer than you think. A quick fact to cite is in Connecticut and in America, there are more blacks and Latinos overall in prison, but there are more Caucasian women in prison than any other ethnic group for women. And that's constantly growing. And where you have women, you have children. So you will get the collateral damage of incarceration for those children.
That's a good
And this
point.
is a slowly growing epidemic due to the opioid crisis. Please pay attention. Please get involved, because it could be at your doorstep tomorrow.
Thank you. If you are listening to us, you are listening to Criminal Justice Insider on WNHHLP 103.5 FM. We're broadcasting live from downtown New Haven, and we are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. And we're also streaming live video on Facebook Live. So just go to facebook.com/New Haven Independent, or just go to your Facebook page and look us up. So our show today is sponsored by the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven.
Give me some more money next year.
Now we can do it
Give me
together.
some more money.
Now more than ever.
Now more than
next
ever.
year. Raise,
And Family
raise the check.
Reentry.
Serving the justice community since 1984.
Since 1984.
Right.
Thank you,
Checks
Andrew
coming.
Kaplan, for
Checks
your support.
coming.
Andrew, love you, Babz. Love you guys.
Love
Thank you
you.
guys for coming. It's a
Thank you,
wonderful,
Scott.
wonderful show.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh,
that
thank
was
you,
very
Babz.
nice.
Thank you, Jeff, for having us.
Yep,
This
thank
was
you.
good. This was good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You have to come back and follow up, because I want to know.
Yep.
You know, I want to know. We want to know what the progress is, because we are all about this criminal justice life,
Absolutely.
and so we
Yep.
want to make sure that we.
And we got to get some more listeners up in Hartford for y'all.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, love you, Babz.
Love you too, Jeff.
All right.
Hi, this is Steph, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting from New Haven, Connecticut.
I'm on a road